Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. Looks like I'm coming in a little hot. Let me dial that down just a touch. Thank you very much for joining us today here on Star Trek New Worlds. If you're new here, thank you for joining us live and, of course, catching us on the replay. Star Trek New Worlds is a turn-based strategy game that we play here with you online today on YouTube, on Twitch, no Facebook Live today. And of course, we bring it to you with the magic of Vassal, which we will see here in a moment. We play this game using the rule set of the Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. And if you are new here, and let me give you a quick walk around the screen so you know what's going on. Obviously, you can see over there is the chat and this big QR code in between me and the chat. That QR code and the link down below takes you to Coffee, where if you are so inclined, you can send us a little caffeination injection to keep us motivated and energized as we give you this live stream here today. Of course, if you are like Adam down below there and want to join us as a subscriber on this channel, we are on our journey to 500 total subscribers. That unlocks the community tab here on YouTube. So if you like all things Star Trek strategy and so on, and at the end of today's live stream, you think, ooh, I want some more of that, then please feel free to hit the subscribe button, notify that bell, and join our community of players as we are looking to grow and ever increase the size and community of folks who love Star Trek, turn-based strategy, and so on and so forth. So, with that said, ooh, it's going to be an exciting day today. It's the real deal, Holyfield. Ear-biting, crazy stuff is going on today. In fact, the turns just got resolved like less than 2 hours before the start of this live stream. It has been crazy as far as all the activity that is going on today. So I'm very excited to be able to start sharing that with you in but a moment. But before we do, let's jump into the chitty chat and say hello to the folks that are joining us here live on YouTube. So we start off with Eugene, our press agent, our public affairs officer, our marketeer. Eugene, only moments away from the weekly update. Lots of questions to be answered. Will the Carnies push back the Klingons, or will the Klingon movement superiority continue to frustrate the top dogs? Have the Remans sent a task force to rescue their embattled base, or have the Lyran forces knocked them out? If so, what will what will hold back the Lyran-fed forces? Has the Northern Alliance finally ended the Hydran theocracy, or have the Hydran gods intervened to save them? Will the Tholians be able to reduce the Borak world, or have the Borak recovered from the first attempt with a Batarang attack? All this and more on a Canadian Thanksgiving Day weekend. Yes! It's true. For those of us here north of the 49th, it is Thanksgiving Day weekend. We like to do it early because why? Well, the growing season's a little shorter here up north, so that's why it starts now. So happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Canadians. Quick sip of coffee in celebration of all of us and you. So with that said, ooh, it's going to be exciting. Let's get into, as I pull up my various screens here, let's get into anytime you're ready. There we go. Let's get into the galactic news. Double trouble! The monsters in southern Lyran space have been identified. Sadly, the science work was done by a base that was subsequently eaten by said monsters, known as Banshees. These mechanical beasties deconstructed the base and used the materials to multiply and create another swarm of Banshees. Combat reports claim that the creatures are terrifyingly effective at ripping things apart. Doomed expedition. The Federation Expeditionary Fleet on its way to the Reman front was intercepted by a swarm of rapidly multiplying Banshees in Lyran space. The Admiral of the Expeditionary Force recognized that if they retreated, the Lyran core worlds, not to mention thousands of civilian ships, were exposed to this monstrosity. The signal of no quarter, no retreat was sounded by the flagship, the USS Excalibur, and the brave Federation warriors drove straight into the swarm. Thus ended the voyage of these true heroes. Outpost Reduxed. Anytime you're ready, there we are. Outpost Redux. A second assault on the Reman outpost in Sector Foxtrot 6 was conducted by the Lyran Navy. Despite the determination of the defenders, the overwhelming weight of Lyran firepower made the outcome inevitable. And with the fall of the starbase, all significant Reman resistance in their western reaches has been eliminated. Will this be enough to slake the fury of the ferocious feline force, or have they set their eyes on the Reman homeworld itself? Countdown to Armageddon. It appears that the final offensive of the Reman ISC alliance may finally be underway. Hydran ships and bases in the no man's land between these two foes have been swept clear, and sizable fleets have begun to move south. The Hydrans appear to be circling the wagons as they draw their still considerable fleet back to the homeworld. Is this the swan song for our tentacular friends? Or is this still a wriggly trick? Is there still a wriggly trick up their sleeves? Zoning out. In a diplomatic move that caught our reporters by surprise, the Klingon Carnivon neutral zone has been pushed out several hexes to the galactic east. It appears they must have reached some kind of compromise on territorial sovereignty. Many speculate that the terrible loss of life and treasure resulting from the brief but savage war has convinced leaders in both empires that compromise is preferable to catastrophe. All we are saying is, give peace a chance. Alphoria on the brink. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Borak world of Alphoria is fighting for its existence as an independent nation. The Tholian forces redoubled their assault on the exhausted defenders, destroying many irreplaceable Alphorian ships. At the height of the battle, Tholian Marines boarded the orbiting fortress and set charges to its primary power couplers. The resulting explosion left the station a crippled hulk. While a spirited counterattack drove the Tholians back out of their space, all agree that it is only a matter of time before the tiny nation is brought under their crystalline boots. And that, my friends, is the galactic news. Very exciting. Okay. So what do you think? What do you think of all that? Let's roll in and say hi to, it looks like Eugene, of course. Paul is in the house. Tansy Tony is back, Eugene says. Bill, hey, look where I built a YDK, where WD1 popped out offering emergency assistance to Lyrans against the Banshee. Interesting. So George Duffy, hello to all. Devin Dean is in the house. Woohoo! Banshees equals buzz droids, George says. Okay, well, thank you very much. We are now fully into full effect and stereo sound. We are 10 minutes into our live stream here. We are now at double digits on those attending to us live. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to take a quick sip of celebration caffeination. Take a quick sip of caffeination celebration. There we are, as to what's going on. But as we heard in the Galactic News and the updates in the description of this video, there is so much going on. So why don't we start off with what I think is truly one of the most interesting stories about the Banshees and all that kind of craziness. Let's go to the crazy and exciting stuff that is going on the Lyran-Reman border. Boom! What'd you think about that transition? Hey, here we go. Let's zoom in and figure out before we zoom in and figure out what's going on the map, let's do a quick EP and fleet cap calculation. All right, EP is there. Fleet cap, we'll put that on the other side. Whoop, there we go. Put that on the other side just to make things easier. Zoom that out. Here we go. All right. Let's start with the counting of the coin. The Carnivon are now at a 31.5 EP, coming back, going over the 30 number after being devastated in their recent war. The Federation is at 50.5. The Gorn right behind them at 50 even. The Hydrans are a dirty dozen. The ISC at 41.5. The Klingons dropping down ever so slightly to 64.5. The Lyrans are at 49.5, chomping at that 50 milestone. The Remans, 55.5. Romulans at 47.5. And the Tholians, 55.5. Ooh. Let's talk about the ships in circulation. The Carnivon still sitting high with 127 total ships in the fleet, 288 attack, 469 defense. Take a look at that 469 defense factor versus their fleet cap of 537. There is quite a delta there. There are a ton of crippled ships, it would seem. The Federation with 57 total ships. That is a bit of a dip from what happened before, obviously due to the Banshees, with a 154 attack, 246 defense. The Gorn, now more ships than the Feds with 68 total at 150, 284 attack defense. The Hydrans still maintaining a fleet of 54 ships despite their diminutive economy with a 132 attack, 227 defense. The ISC, wow, more than doubling the Hydran fleet at 114 total ships, puts them at the number 3 spot on the fleet count with 368 attack, 528 defense. Wowzers. Whew. Okay, the Klingons are at 93 total ships, creeping closer to that ever elusive 100 ship total. They are at 284 attack, 351 defense. You notice the number of cripples there between the 351 defense and the 384 in total fleet cap. The Lyrans are at 79 total ships. That fleet is starting to grow. They are at 172 total attack, 328 defense. But look at that delta. 328 defense, 382 fleet cap. Wow, there's quite a few cripples in that fleet, that is for sure. The Remans at 139. That is one of the first times I've seen it dip significantly, the total fleet cap, or the total number of ships in their fleet. But still with a 399, oh my God, 399 attack factor, 529 defense. Wow. They are, without a doubt, number 1 on the fleet list. The Romulans with 73 total ships, popping over 200 with their total attack factors at 201, 323 defense factors. Interesting to note, just a few cripples or minor cripples in that regard. The Tholians rounding us out at 92 total ships, just a smidge above or below the Klingons, with 128 total attack factors, 336 defense with a fleet cap of 357. And that is our fleet cap EP count. Let's roll to the top and see what is going on. Ooh, with all these exciting and delighting scenarios. Okay, let's start with the west, head east, and figure out what's going on in the Lyran sphere of influence. Okay, a couple things going on. We can see that there are Far Stars and Blood Stars sitting here on this wormhole. Interesting to note, Far Stars and Blood Star. Lyrans. What's going on? Far and Blood Star is in here somewhere. Blood Claw. Blood anywhere. Blood Star. There we are. Okay, so we've previously taken a look at these fleets before, noting that there's not really much going on there. So we can see that there is a total of 3 destroyers plus 2, so 5 total destroyers, 2 W-air frigates sitting there on that wormhole, basically acting as a cork to prevent anything from coming through, because this Hydran ship sneaked through and is obviously working its way south. What is going on with this Hydran Vol? Who knows? It certainly doesn't really represent a threat, but where is it going? What is it doing? What is going on? Interesting. Okay. Well, of course, the big story is this bit of business in the center of the map. Let's take a quick look at the void. Oh, this is interesting. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So assuming that the Lyrans do not have 5 supply, which would be very unusual if they did at this point in the game. So with only 4 supply, theoretically, they can't provide supply to this planet. Also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They certainly don't have 6 supply. They can't reach this base, which means this whole area in the south is now an isolated or partial supply grid. Interesting. That base destruction has really thrown the Lyran infrastructure for a loop. And as we pull back the ships, we can see that they've multiplied, and that's not going away anytime soon. Think about the size of that. There were 12 ships in that Federation fleet that was that was heading towards the Reman front. So one, that's a real boon for the Remans, in the sense that they no longer have to worry about Federation intervention. 2, the Banshees have taken that out. They have become more, not less of a threat as a result, and the Lyrans got to deal with that. This provides an interesting opportunity. We'll go into the sort of the casualties and what the results are of that base destruction up in Reman space, but I would imagine the Lyrans are going to have to mount a pretty significant effort to resolve the Banshees, and if they don't, they may be facing, depending on where the Banshees go, total annihilation. We've seen the Banshees slowly creep into this northeasterly direction. They may skirt past the homeworld, but if they keep going in this general direction, they're going to cause a lot of damage to Lyran space. This could be an excellent opportunity for the Remans to double down, redouble their efforts in sort of fighting back against the Lyrans, and anything that they have lost, I have a feeling they may be able to get back. So that's going to be interesting. Of course, it all depends on how the Lyrans deal with the Banshees in question, but very, very interesting. But let's move to the right. We can see that there's Night Roar. I've never heard of that fleet name before. That's an interesting one. Let's see if I can find Night Roar. That is quite the... There it is, Night Roar fleet. Wow. Okay. Well, so Night Roar fleet is a bunch of cripples. We got 3 crippled CCs and a total of 10 crippled destroyers. So it's sitting on a YDK. They'll get repaired and sort of get sent back to the front. Interesting to note, of course, for the YCCs, they're going to take 3 points to repair, which effectively means you could only repair 2 of them if you did all the repair of the YCCs in one turn. With, I believe the YDDs are a 1-point repair. Let's just take a quick look at, let's flip this guy and see what happens. Oh, that's a DD, my mistake. So with the DDs, that's a 2-point repair. So they can only repair a total of 4 DDs total at that YDK. Interesting to note. Of course, they've got some crippled YCAs here as well. And as we go to the right, or to the east, we will notice the, YDG, YCA, YCL, 4 of those home and enemy blood fleets. So let's check out the Lyran home and enemy blood fleet. I have a feeling the, where are you? Enemy blood? Oh, right there. Look at that. Okay, so enemy blood looks like it is relatively unscathed. So we've got a bunch of cripples on the hex, but enemy blood and home fleet are relatively intact. We've got 3 CCs, 4 CCs if you include enemy blood, a couple CLs, a couple of tugs, interesting, a DD and an FF, interesting. And then of course there's foremost fleet over here as well, Lyran foremost. There we go. And that has the dreadnought, the 2 heavy dreadnoughts. Geez, another YCC and a bunch of cruisers, so 4 cruisers as well. So this combined effort here is not nothing, and certainly could push forward and cause some serious trouble for the Remans. But what's the big takeaway? Let's take away the ships real quick. Notice a lack of a Reman base in this area, and noting, of course, that this one base that's still in the vicinity is crippled. Sorry, not crippled. It has 1 SID's worth of damage, so close to being crippled. There is a Lyran base now established in that area, and I imagine that's going to be their supply. Let's do a quick little. No, not unit summary. That's not the one I wanted. It's going to take a second to think about that. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, a coffee has been fired. Disruptor bolts away. Big slow target has fired a coffee our way. Thank you very much. As you can see, the progress bar is moving its way from the left all the way to the right. One of three is our goal today, 3 coffees. So please feel free to fire your disruptors away as we discuss the shenanigans that are occurring in the map. Thank you, Big Slow Target, for the coffee. Okay, we've got this this base here, this Lyran base, and I'm going to pull up the supply menu, set supply at 4, and let's pull up the Lyran supply. Bang. So this is interesting to note. Look at how far it reaches into Remans space. And at the same time, notice how far it doesn't go. So there's going to have to be some added effort to try and get them to a point where they're going to cause some significant problems for the Remans. But he says, let's pull up the Remans supply. Notice the overlap. Look at what the Remans can take and touch versus what the Lyrans can. So I find this particularly interesting because all these resources here, these 5 resources, I figure are fluid in the sense that they can go back and forth either way. How if this base is destroyed, obviously that'll change that calculation a little bit, but there's this base in the south that can still provide supply up to 4 hexes. So I think that there is this overlapping area of orange, shall we say, is our conflict zone. This is the area in which the battles will be fought if both factions are at the very least equally effective. If you start seeing battles occur outside of this orange zone, that will be a key indicator that one or the other side of this fight is sort of getting the upper hand. And considering how close this orange area is to the homeworld of the Remans, this is something to think about. Now, we'll get into the Reman side of things here in a moment. Let me slide my head over to the other side here. You can see that the Reman capital is so close to this orange area. There's a little bit of an issue or concern there. But like I said, as conflicts occur in this orange area, when you see things happen outside of it, that is a key indicator of sort of how things are going for, or who's got the upper hand in that particular conflict. So let's bring back the ships and let's get rid of that supply overlap. Let's get rid of the Remans as well. Okay. So very, very interesting. Of course, the Klingons, or the Remans rather, have discovered this Borak faction up in the top. It is the planet of Yon. Interesting. And I think that with the extended supply, these ships, this particular ship is in supply, but this guy over here looks like he's out of supply. Of course, let's not forget about this bug here. As we've noticed with the Banshees, monsters can be a bit of a problem, and they can really throw your plans for a loop. So how much of the Lyran military force will have to be diverted, as most of it, if not all of it, is on the Reman front? How much of it will have to be diverted to deal with those Banshees? Who knows? But there's also the bug that is sort of taking up time and space in the back end and near the area of operation of Reman space. But before I completely transition to the Remans, let's take a quick look at this AA wormhole. The Gorn have decided to pop in. Very interesting because, and I'll slide my head over to the other side here. If we scroll down and slide over, this is the AA wormhole. And it's showing up here. This is a very interesting development for the Gorn. The Gorn are, and we'll get into their turn in a moment here, but the Gorn are essentially turning into like a Babylon 5 in some respects. They are a hub with a lot of wormholes that lead to very different areas of the map. And they have the potential to exert a particular amount of influence or disruption as they decide to play it. So it'll be very interesting to see how this evolves going forward. But if I'm knowing the supply constraints of the Lyrans, if I'm the Gorn, This colony is a very juicy target because if I take it, I have supply. And it's a foothold from which I can move forward. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how this evolves because, of course, with the Banshees, the Lyrans aren't going to do anything about it if you take that. And if you move through with any significant fleet, what's that going to do and or represent for these sort of isolated bases and resources in the corner here? I think the Gorn could start to exert some interesting influence in this area if they so decided. We will have to see. Oh, and there's so much more down there with the Federation I just want to get into. But let's go back to the Remans, as that is the side of the map we're currently dealing with and the current conflict that's going on. All right, so let's take a look at their homeworld. We've got the Admiral, Destiny, and Integrity fleet from the ISC, which we'll touch on in a moment. The Remans are building out Triton fleet. Triton fleet, we can see here, is a full build schedule of 3 frigates, 3 destroyers, and a cruiser. You can see that right here. But other than that, we can see there is a significant lack of fleets and ships in this area. Obviously, they sort of fired their full load on the Lyrans in their initial attack. So the Lyrans will have to reposition and redeploy some of their assets. But if I'm the Remans, a redistribution of my military effort is sort of something that's going to be required post-haste. Other than that, we can see that the general disposition of ships and supply in this area is limited. And here is, if I'm the Remans, a particular point of frustration. Notice that this base here, there used to be another base in this area, but this base has a Sid's worth of damage, and there's nothing in between. There is a roundabout supply connection this way, but if this base goes, it's going to isolate a bunch of resources over here, and certainly this base here. So if I'm the Remans, in fact, is there... Oh yeah, if I'm the Remans, I want to try and maintain this base as much as I can and start building out infrastructure into this direction. So put a couple ships on that, protect it, that kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see how that sort of develops as we go forward. Let's scroll down to the other area of operations for the Remans, which is oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Let's take away the ships because it can get a little busy down there. So what do we have here? We see this sort of distribution of resources. You see the Hydrans have sort of retaken and established dominance in this area when it comes to these resources. We can see that the from a base perspective and the reach that they have, again, let's pull up the supply for the Remans. Now there is supply coming from this capital home system here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. From a DM perspective, I think you can drop a Reman counter on this hex, and that will change that, I think. Interesting. It'd be interesting to see what we can do when it comes to this counter. But either way, there is supply coming from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so that gives them sort of a reach down into this area here. And then, of course, the Remans or the Hydrans are operating up here. So there's what you can see here is a lack of supply down to sort of the core and the heart of the Hydrans, which are the other sort of main opponent here. Bringing back the ships and getting rid of that supply menu ever so quickly. We can see that we've got quite a collection of ships. So these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are in supply. This particular tug is not, as I can tell, unless there's something in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are in supply. This one is not. These guys, 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are in supply. This one, unless he's being provided supply from the ISC. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think no matter what happens, this tug is out of supply. But let's take a look at some of these fleets. So we got, in this area here, we've got Columbia and Acropolis. So let's pull up those Reman fleets real quick. Columbia and Acropolis. Oh, geez Louise. Okay, so Columbia, to be clear, is the bigger of the two fleets. The bigger of the two fleets, which is 4 cruisers, 6, 12, 15, 16 destroyers, 6, 7 frigates, and a few little cripples there. But here's the kicker. That fleet is out of supply. Now, if it were to attack, let's say, First Fleet, and some of those ships are being supplied either from an expeditionary or other aspect, they're being provided supply from the ISC, then they would be in supply when they would enter this hex for combat. But as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. As of right now, they are not in supply, as I see it. Acropolis Fleet, which is the fleet just back here, you can see it's a cruiser and 2 frigates and a destroyer, and then there's another frigate down here. I think perhaps to try and help with the supply flow there. We've got Pacific Fleet in the back here. What is in Pacific Fleet, or Pacifica? There it is, Pacifica Fleet. Ooh, all right. 2 cruisers. Oh, 6. Jesus, 12 destroyers. Another 12 frigates. Wow, that's not small. Okay, so the Pacifica is a significant size fleet, and it's either ready to move forward or up, depending on where they want to go. And of course, you have a bunch of these Reman forces, which are sort of isolating and taking some of the resources in this area. And of course, there is still Cerberus Fleet, which is not too far away. And Cerberus, there you are. Oh, well, it's 2 destroyers and a crippled destroyer and 3 frigates, so nothing too much there. But you can see that obviously from Cerberus, they've sort of sent out some ships to be able to take certain resources and so on, and pre-position themselves for this attack. Oh, Athena. Let's take a look at Athena. Oh, Athena, where are you? Am I blind? Reman, New, Pacifica, Atlantia, Pegasus, Triton. There it is at the very bottom. All right, so Athena's good because it has a dreadnought. It has a command cruiser. It has another 4 cruisers and 5 destroyers. So certainly not going to take it on its own, but combined with other factions or with the ISC backup, they could certainly move the needle when it comes to dealing with the Hydrans. But we'll get to the Hydrans in but a moment. But let's take a quick chat, or a quick shift to the chat right now. Woo! All right, let's roll in. We had Big Slow Target obviously firing that coffee, so thank you so much. Let's scroll up a little bit and catch up. We got Bill saying big buzz droids, more like battleship sized droids. They individually 12, no damage side. I'm assuming that's a 12-12 attack or something like that, maybe. I don't know. They always look bigger when they're cutting through your transparent aluminum. 100-meter wide drill bit. Ooh. All right, Jim, are you out there? Question mark. And Bill saying Gorns have offered assistance to the Lyrans to deal with Banshees. Oh, okay. So the Gorn are looking to help the Lyrans. Interesting, considering some of the again, the evolution that's going on here with the reach that the Gorns have, and the different conflicts that are happening across the board. Interesting that they're offering assistance to the Lyrans. Okay. Well, speaking of all things yellow, let's slide back in and talk about the ISC. Boom. All right, the ISC, as we can see, have Integrity and Destiny fleet loaded on the Reman capital. Let's take a look at what the ISC fleets have in their named echelons. We can see here, Integrity and Destiny. So Destiny's at the top, which is purely a YCL and the R&D team. And Integrity fleet is a CC, CL, and 2 FFs. So that, without a doubt, is not going to make the difference. If the Lyrans attack in force, that's not going to be the thing that moves the needle. However, Providence is within 1 movement of arriving, and they have a CL 5 DDs, and a tug. So what does this tell us? The ISC are providing ships to be able to help support the defense of the Reman capital, but none of those are going to sort of really move the needle. When we look at the Reman capital, FYI, we can see it has a YDK that is in the process of being upgraded. It has 6 planetary ground bases, and the other planets in the system do not have a lot. If I am the Remans, everything that I build is, from a ship perspective, is going to sit in and on the capital, and I'm going to be sending out tugs and or convoys to start building out layered defenses, sort of in an echelon around the home system. J10, Juliet 10, 8, and Lima 7 are my primary candidates to be able to create that shield, but definitely something to be able to create a barrier, a hurdle, an obstacle for the Lyrans to go through first before they arrive at my home system, or something to that effect. The challenge is, of course, that I imagine the Remans are getting close to maybe war fatigue, and of course they are being distracted because they've got all this other business going on in the south. So, speaking from experience, it's hard to fight a war on 2 fronts. So we'll see how that goes. As we roll down here, we can see the distribution of naval forces from the ISC side is relatively minimal. There's not much going on here to basically describe it. Most of their military forces are down south, as we will see here in a moment. We can see here DD, CL, and 3rd Fleet. I seem to recall that ISC 3rd Fleet was nothing special. Yeah, DD, there we go. So these are just ships that were getting repaired and they haven't moved south. We've got over here on the right a couple of ships, 3 DDs and a CL that recently retook or defended. It looks like maybe retook. Anyways, this planet here. And of course, there is a resource here to be able to retake as well. But as we go down and we start looking at the juicy bits here, what do we got? We got a bug, which is continuing to move in a northerly direction, which is problematic, I would say, for the ISC at some point. But we have Justice, Judgment, Law Order, and Law Fleet. Again, going back to the echelons here. Justice, CC, 2 CAs, 4 CLs, and 5 DDs. That's Justice sitting here on this planet. And then we have Judgment, Order, and Law. So Order is a CA, 7 CLs, 4 DDs, a tug. Law is a CC, 2 CLs, and 5 DDs. So again, double digits now in CLs and DDs, which is again the bread and butter of the ISC fleet. And then Judgment, where is Judgment? Judgment, another CC, 3 CLs, 2 DD, no, not 2, 4 DDs, and an FF. So on this Hydran capital system, there is more than enough to be able to effectively defend it against a monster or anything else. They are going to kick butt and take names, in another way of saying that. However, we've got Truth Fleet and Enforcement Fleet within striking distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Within striking distance of the Hydran capital. This is that news item. Is the apocalypse upon us for the Hydran faction? We shall see. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got Truth and Enforcement. So irony if it was Truth Fleet that knocked them out. So we've got a Dreadnought, a CC, a CA, 6 CLs, and 5 DDs. Enforcement Fleet is another DN, CA, 6 CLs. So if we combine the CLs, that puts us at a total of 12 CLs. There's one cripple here, but 6 DDs plus the 5 from before. So it's 11 DDs, not including the cripple. So we've got double-digit CLs, double-digit DDs, 2 Dreadnoughts, a CC, 2 CAs, and then there's a commando ship and a frigate. Just on those two fleets. And of course, there's some tugs and there's going to be some building of stuff there. Interesting to know. That's the bulk of the ISC stuff. And what it seems like here is that between the Remans and the ISC, they're mounting or certainly preparing for a final push on the Hydrans. So if that is the case, let's just take a quick look at what's on the Hydran capital. We've got a collection of things. Let's look at the Hydran ships first. So second home, tungsten and iridium. Okay, so Hydran, pull up home. So there's Hydran home fleet. Where we got second, tungsten and iridium. Hydran, second. Hydran, metal fleets. Yeah, tungsten and iridium. Okay, so we can see here that tungsten and iridium, all they are is a survey ship with a vol. So nothing too crazy. The other fleets involved here have one DN, a total of 4 CCs, along with another one from second fleet. So a total of 5 CCs. We have 5 vols. Oh, there's 2 other CCs there. Excuse me. So 6 CCs, a DN, and 5 vols. Certainly not enough. But we've got, as far as random ships in there, we have another 3, 4, 5, another 5 vols. So that puts us at double digits in vols for frigates. We have another DN and CC, so 2 DNs, and now a total of, is that 7? Yeah, 7 CCs, which is not nothing. And that's it from the Hydran side. They also have 2 planetary ground bases and a YDK. This does not include the Carnivons, which, assuming at this point, because they're co-located and they're allies, the Carnivon will be participating in the defense of the Hydran capital. Whew. Which will be a thing. Let me finish with the Hydran fleet first. So we've also got new fleet in reaction range here. So let's look at Hydran new fleet. So Hydran new fleet is a bit crippled here. You can see there's 2 crippled ships, and all it is a DN. So a YDN there. Is it and an extra vol? Would they react and go to assist the capital? Probably. We also have first fleet sitting there. Hydran first fleet. Oh, okay. Hydran first fleet sitting right here in the way of the Klingons and the Remans, excuse me. There is a YDN, 3 YCCs, 2 DDs, and 3 FFs. So 2 destroyers, 3 frigates, 3 command cruisers, and a dreadnought sitting there. So, my God, it's like counting beans here. All right, so what do we got? Long story short, we've got a boatload of ships on the ISC and Remans side, and there are more of them than there are Hydrans to defend at the end of the day. If we look at the map real quick, and we'll take away the ships here, the Hydrans don't have enough ships. Remember, they had like 54 ships when we did our fleet count. They don't have enough ships to defend everything. They certainly can't defend and access this base here because looks like the Klingons popped a base in between. And there's a bunch of bases that were popped over on the right side here on the east side of the map. So all they've got left is this core group of bases here, which is 1, 2 YBSs and this YDK sitting on the Hydran homeworld. Now, if the Carnivon YDK is participating in the defense, boom! It just happened, ladies and gentlemen. Juggernauts have fired a coffee. Cheers to you, my Juggernaut friends. I'll see you shortly. Yes. Thank you for the coffee. We're now 2 of 3 is our goal. 3 is our goal. 1 more to go. Can we get to 3, the trifecta? The trifecta of tentacles, as we're talking about the Hydrans. We shall see. All right. Well, let's dive in. Let's finish off the Hydrans. Not in that way. And get to some other folks on the map. All right. So when we're talking about the Hydrans, again, a couple of bases, and then the core system trying to defend their homeworld. Do they have enough? The Carnivons can contribute, certainly with their base. The YDK can only contribute half of its attack factors in the defense of that system because it is not co-located with the other base. They got to be far enough away from each other so it can offer half its EW and half its attack factor in the defense of that planet. Okay. And then, of course, you've got the Carnivon ships that are going to be in that area as well. Let's bring back the ships and count them, shall we? So in the immediate hex, we've got 9 frigates. We have, trying to count them is so challenging, a dreadnought, 2 CLs, a drone bombardment cruiser, 2 of those, and a YCA. So the Carnivon ships in that area alone are not over the top. Like, it is not an excessive amount of ships in that area, but there is more than enough to provide a bit of a speed bump to the combined ISC Reman assault. In addition, they have some ships sort of in the area. So there's a WCA sitting here. It'll help. Fox Skulk 2. Let's take a look at Fox Skulk 2. All right, so that's a little bit more. We've got a CCCA, drone bombardment cruiser and destroyer, 4 destroyers, and a bunch of crippled ships. Assuming there's a base there? Oh, there isn't a base there. So these ships, looks like they came from Arbor here. So these ships are certainly contribute to the defense, but like even when you combine the Carnivon and the Hydran ships, it's going to be a really close fight. The Hydrans and the Carnivons, if they're defending the Reman and ISC attack, will be effective. They have the EW advantage. They got the bases to soak up damage. They've got a lot to be able to slow the ISC and the Remans down. At the end of the day, the Remans and the ISC just have more ships to throw at them, because even if the first wave of attack isn't successful, we know that there's other ships behind them. And it just depends on how they want to position those ships in advance. It would seem as though the ISC are going to, with these 2 tugs here, potentially provide supply and maybe build a base here to go further down south. I just don't know, for the purposes of this live stream, I don't know what their timeline is. I don't know what what kind of deadline are they working with, and the pressure on their economy. For example, we know that because they've mentioned it before, the ISC are in economic exhaustion, or at least the first stage of it. So if they are, then where are they? If you remember that there are several tiers of economic exhaustion, once you hit over 20 turns of war, you'll start to you'll get that initial first stage of economic exhaustion. Then you go into collapse. And so you go from having 75% of your income, and then at the 30 turn mark, you start getting 50% of your income. And then it gets worse after that. So the question is, where are they in that spectrum? We know that they're in economic exhaustion. How close are they to collapse? And how is that going to impact them? We know that the Hydran strategy has been to drive them into the worst possible scenario when it comes to that. What's that going to look like? So we'll have to see how this evolves and what happens here. But regardless, the Remans and the IC have quite a bit ahead of them to be able to sort this out. And if the Carnivon and the Hydrans are performing a combined defense, they may cripple themselves in the defense of those planets or that planet, but they may be successful in doing so. We'll have to check out next week to see what happens, assuming that attack happens this coming turn. This is turn 77, the peak of punk, the height of disco, the year Star Wars came out. Great year, by the way, for no particular reason. So that will be very, very interesting. Okay. Let's take a look at what's happened and the big seismic shift that happened in the Carnivon Klingon War. Okay, let's slide back here ever so quickly. So as per the thumbnail, there be some secrets being chitter-chatted in the back rooms of diplomacy. As you may know, in this game, of course, it's a war game, and we just spent all this time talking about the map and what's going on and so on. However, one of the things that makes this game and the way we play it so much fun is the virtual table talk. It is the diplomatic discussions that go back and forth, the whispers via email messages and so on, the chats on Discord, and watching who's talking to whom in the voice chat on Discord, by example. When you see a couple of players playing or having a discussion in our diplomatic channel, you must wonder why. Why are they chatting? What are they talking about? Are they talking about me? What are they going to do? And various other things. The paranoia meter starts to go up as you see the interactions escalate. So, with all that said, what is going on? Well, in recent time, over the course of this past little bit, because of course we've been waiting for the turns to get processed, there has been some chitter chatter, some discussion, some back and forth, and deals have been done. One of those deals has been the most recent change of the border between the Klingons and the Carnivon. As you may remember, the Klingons had just finished Phase 2 and were working into Phase 3 of their attack plan. They had devastated the infrastructure, i.e. the bases. They had conquered the resources in the area, and they were in the midst of engaging in this skirmishing warfare where they were crippling and devastating the overall power and effectiveness of the Carnivon fleet. However, as you may notice here in a second, a deal was struck. So as you can see here on the map, what are we seeing? We are seeing, and we'll take away the ship so it's a little less busy, we can see a new border has been drawn. So whereas the Carnivon border basically extended all the way to the west, or sorry, excuse me, yes, to the west, we see that it stops now in Quebec 33. And whereas before it ran this diagonal line up here, now, of course, it more accurately represents the current area of control of each faction. Now, the Carnivons had, while the Klingons had taken these planets, this planet Arbor and Zoid, respectively, the Carnivons had taken them back and were currently holding them at the time of this negotiation. So, what we've done is we've established a new border along here. And you can see that as opposed to the sort of hook that went down the whiskey line, there's been a compromise and now it's going straight down uniform here. So the UU, or uniform line, is going straight up here and a little bit of a kick around Zoid, same thing around Arbor, and it stops here at Quebec 33. So what's that? What has that done? That has effectively consolidated the wins of the Klingon Empire based on the sort of armistice and the peace. We effectively have gone to peace status. Now, there is one caveat around that. These ships here, if they remain in this space, I have to stay at war status. The only thing that could change that is if I was in an alliance with the Carnivon, which I'm not. Alliances can only be established or broken in spring, in the spring. So in our turns, for example, we have the spring, summer, and the fall, winter, two halves to the year. And so turn 77 is going, or turn 76, which is the turn that just finished, leading to this agreement, was the fall, winter. So you can't establish or break alliances going into or resolving the fall and the winter turn. You can only do that in the spring and the summer, which is turn 77. This map is turn 77, and then we will sort of process turn 77, and next week you'll see 78. So between 77 and 78, that's when alliances can be established and broken, because that is a spring-summer turn. So those ships, Apocalypse and Joint Task Force Gamma, as you see them here, if they remain there and no alliance is established, I will remain at war status, which means I'm incurring more war turns, which, to be fair, we've seen the impact, the impact of that, excuse me, and that is not good. However, speaking of all things rumor and chitter chatter and the whispers in the back rooms of places unknown, there may be some other agreements in the works. Now, this is purely rumor, purely speculation, and I have no confirmation. So whereas the map you just saw and the line that you saw with the neutral zone, that is all established. That is in play right now. Here we go. let me start with the rumor mill about what is going on in the background. Number one, are the Hydrans about to break their deal with the Carnivon? That would be a really weird move or play to make. Because if they were to do that, break with the Carnivon, then if they did that, then that would mean that the Carnivon ships in Hydran space or on their capital, they would immediately create a battle hex and they would have to resolve that battle. Or the Carnivon ships would have to retreat. So what's going on there? If they were to do that, then again, the Carnivon would effectively be at war with the Hydrans, being that not only are there Hydran ships in Carnivon space, but the Carnivons are sitting on the Hydran homeworld, and they have a base there. So they would have to resolve that in some way, shape, or form. The Hydrans would have to destroy, effectively, the Carnivon base, sort of by the rules of the game. Unless there's some kind of other agreement in place, but generally speaking, just by the rules, that's a battle hex, and you got to resolve it. But if they are going to break the agreement with the Carnivon, and this is just rumor, who are they going to ally with? Is this some kind of like burn all my bridges and bring burn the house down, or is there some other play at work? Well, if they got other players involved or other factions involved, who could they be? Who are the enemies of my enemy? If it's all about the Remans and the ISC, then I guess the Federation and the Lyrans, but the Lyrans and the Federation can't help the Hydrans. There is this Kilo wormhole, but as we just saw, there's not enough ships on the Lyran side to make a difference. Unless, and this would be the ultimate backstab, unless all those ships that are being built on the homeworld on the Lyran capital are going to move over to that wormhole and come through and pop a Carnivon base and establish a foothold in Carnivon territory. In which case, there would be a fight now between the Lyrans and the Carnivon, which would seem really strange considering the Lyrans are fighting the Remans are fighting the Hydrans and the Carnivon. I don't know. It seems very strange to me. However, like I said, some of the rumors that are going on in this context. So very, very strange. But let's slide back to the map and talk about what this means for the Carnivon and the Klingon Empire with this new sort of neutral zone that we see. All right. So what we see here is with this establishment of the new neutral zone, let's take away ships real quick. So you can see that there's kind of like this open space up here because as of right now, there is no deal between the ISC and the Remans, right? There's no agreement between the Carnivon, the Klingon, well, I guess the Carnivon have their pre-existing sort of neutral zone as it was established with the Hydrans, but there is no sort of diplomatic agreement that cedes what was formerly / kind of is still Hydran space to the Remans and the ISC. So as of right now, all of that is being established through basically possession. Are you in control of that territory? And if so, what does that mean? So when we bring back the ships, we can see that some Klingon ships have moved up and captured some a resource here. We have a tug. Looks like it's getting ready to build a base. We've got Joint Task Force Bravo. Let's just pull up Joint Task Force, or Beta, excuse me. So you can see Beta's got some crippled ships in there, but we've specifically got a tug and a couple ships right here. It looks like they're either getting ready or capable of building a base. So if I'm the Klingons, which I am, then you can see that there's an effort afoot to be able to go vertical here and sort of incorporate some of what's going on resource-wise into the fold. We established before, when we take away the ships again, you can see that there is a lack of connection between this Hydran base and the rest. And of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, they can't access any of these resources, these 4 resources here. So Based on that, you can see the Klingon intention is to be able to take resources, and of course, those resources are open and ready for the taking. The only thing that's going to get in the way are a couple of these little Hydran ships, which not going to be too much of a hurdle. As we scroll down here, we can see that based on the YBS that's in this area, we have a number of other ships, predominantly a bunch of M ships. So we've got a D6M and 5 E4Ms that have repositioned here. We've also got Klingon Green Fleet, which is a sort of a recomposition of previous forces. You can see here we've got a total of, let's just stack those up. We've got a total of 3 D6Ms and let's do, well, yeah, let's do this. That's fine. That's fine. So we've got 2 plus 6. We got 8 E4Ms, 3 cruisers ready to go forth and do bad things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They can go as far as here. Is that true? Oh no, they're here. So they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they can reach this base. They can go as far as here, by example. We've also got a number of M ships. You can see 5 E4Ms sort of currently positioned at this base. And so effectively what we're seeing is a repositioning of Klingon assets in a northerly direction. East Fleet, of course, here, I don't know if you guys remember, East Fleet was, and I will show it to you here. There it is, East Fleet. East Fleet is basically a tug. Oh, was I showing that? It was behind my head. Excuse me. So that is, let me pull up those Klingon fleets again. So Beta, yeah, you saw that. And then, of course, Green Fleet, Klingon Green. Yeah, you saw that too. Okay, so the tug here is in East Fleet. That's right here on the border. We'll be establishing some bases and some border defenses. And just basically setting up a series of a chain of infrastructure to be able to support the new border that we've established and sort of make things all copacetic with the Carnivon. And on the Carnivon side of this new border, you can see we've got Den and Home. Let's take a quick look at what they've got in the mix. So Den Fleet, where are you? Den Fleet. Okay, so Den Fleet you can see has 2 CLs, a drone bombardment cruiser, CC, and a DN. Certainly not something that's going to sort of threaten the viability of the Klingon position, but if they wanted to, they could go pop a couple of ships maybe. And then we've got Home Fleet here, and Carnivon Home Fleet is a little more substantial. So we've got a DN, CA, 2 CLs, a DD, 3 drone bombardment destroyers, and a total of 7 frigates. Now, that fleet is a little bit more robust in 1, 2, 3, 4. They could certainly go out and pop this T4, this tug that's right here. But when it comes to the more sensitive locations, you can see they're not really in a position to really do much in that regard when it comes to sort of hurting the position of the Klingon Empire. So we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, at this point, the Carnivons are sort of consolidating their backyard, recently discovering a neutral colony here in the corner. And of course, they're moving all their ships to where they have repair capacity, which is basically their capital, this YDK here, and of course the one on the Carnivon homeworld. So you can see that's why you have this distribution of ships where they are to be able to repair and sort of get their fleet back up and running. As we scroll down, we can see that the Klingons have a couple ships that they're in the midst of repairing. You can see that here. Blue Fleet's basically a bunch of cripples, and then you got this too. As we go to the left here, quick little note for our GM. A slight typo in the sense that in the turn sheet, it is KK52, not 42, that this DTGB was going to. So instead of this location, it was heading down to this location where the wormhole is. So that is heading down there. Part of an effort to be able to reposition and sort of reestablish a cork to the hole that is the wormhole into Federation space. And you can see that there is a continuation of exploration efforts sort of down this way. You've got this YFES doing its business here, and it'll continue to sort of work away at the Fog of War area there. We've got a Y convoy, sorry, not a Y convoy, a commercial convoy making its way back and forth between the the Romulans and the Klingons. Interesting to note that both, of course, both factions are now deploying M-era commercial convoys, which is good for movement, basically, but not much else at this point. Once we get to GW, the money gets more, but other than that, commercial convoys are going back and forth. And let's slide into, and move my head to the other side, let's slide into the Romulan situation. Okay, so a couple of interesting things here. Oh, that's interesting. So this J Juliet wormhole, where you see a Carnivon ship, that's this wormhole right here on their homeworld. Very, very interesting. All right, we're going to talk about the Romulans, and then we're going to slide back into the chat real quick. But let's take a look. We'll go top to bottom here. So we can see that we've got the Exploration Legions. These are warships with a frigate escort and a prime team. They are continuing their push of exploration up towards the center of the map. You can see they have discovered a developing planet here, which is a Paravian planet with a YDK, 3 planetary ground bases, and Vulture Fleet. So let's pull up Vulture Fleet. Vulture Fleet is a CA, 2 CLs, 3 destroyers, and 6 frigates. So not the biggest, baddest fleet in the world, but certainly enough to provide a little bit of a hurdle for the current Romulan disposition of forces in that area. As we slide back down here, we can see that SSN, that's an before W era frigate, so not necessarily overly, shall we say, powerful ship, as you can see with the 1-2. But here's the kicker. We had the rather significant Juggernaut force that was in the area. We've got just a bunch of ships with, or fleets without any Juggernauts. So what's going on here? Let's look at Romulan home fleet. Oh, wow, look at that. Vulture, Kingbird, Warbird, Commando Bird, which is a commando ship, a 2 YSNs, total of 5 snipes, which are the M-era frigate. We have a Scout Eagle. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first scout on the map. The significance of that should not be underestimated. The significance of having a scout in a battle fleet means that you can deploy EW, and if you have one and they don't, your opposition, you automatically get an EW advantage. That's a big deal. As well, the War Eagle M is their Warbird default cruiser in the M era. So that is a big deal right there. The fact that they are now producing cruisers and frigates, and they have scouts, that's a kicker. That's a big deal. If I'm anyone looking to fight with the ROMs, that is a big deal. Okay, so that's home fleet. Wow. All right, let's look. We got 1st and 4th Legion. Let's pull those guys up real fast. 1st Legion. Boom. Another Vulture, Kingbird, Wire Warbird, 2 frigates, and a tug. And then we had 4th Legion as well. 4th Legion is also 2 Kingbirds, 2 Warbirds, 3 Warbirds, excuse me. Let's do that, make it easier, and a YSN. So one of the things to note here is that all those Y-era WBs, those YWBs, those Y-era Warbirds can be upgraded to a War Eagle M, and they become a 4/6. That gives them 6 movement. Doesn't increase their attack factor, but it beefs up their defense factor, and then the War Eagle M can be upgraded to a variety of different ships, including the Scout Eagle, which you can see there. So it's a very interesting combination of ships there. So that's a significant fleet. And I'm going to guess that the Romulan 14th Legion is where all the cripples are, because no, 14th Legion has nothing in there. So what happened? Where did all these, maybe it's the 20th Legion? Hold on, let's look at the Romulan 20th Legion. I mean, where are all these crippled ships? There's a WSN. All right, where are all the crippled ships? You must have attacked and destroyed the The Juggernauts, what happened? Where are they? What's going on? I could have sworn that their wormhole was down here. And qu'est-ce qui arrive, mes amis? Okay, all right. So we got Gorn 4th Fleet. Maybe the Gorns got involved here in some way, shape, or form. Let's look at Gorn 4th Fleet. Nope. They got a couple of DDs, 4 of them, 2 FFs, and a YCC. They didn't get involved and move the needle on that. So what is going on here? Where did the Juggernauts go? You tell me, Romulan player. What did you do? Where did they go? And what's happening with those folks? I'd be very interested to know where they went and what happened to them. So very, very interesting. Okay, let's scroll down and see what else is going on. We got the legions continuing their exploration. We've got a bug that has shown up in the backyard, very far away from anything of consequence, although, of course, there's a resource and a base here. And as we slide over behind my head, other way, you can see that there is exploration of the boot, the toe area of the boot here, which is carrying on. So we can see 9th, Rolandus, 6th, and 7th just continuing their exploration along the neutral zone. So very interesting to see that, the Romulans somehow, some way dealt with the Juggernauts. 2, they have a rather significant number of ships in that area. They are very obviously starting to convert some of their Y-era ships into M ships and or build M ships. And from my perspective as the Klingons, you can see that they are finishing up the exploration of the toe and the heel of their boot. So long live Italia, as the Romulans are continuing their, very appropriate that the Roman-inspired Romulans have a territory that looks like a boot, and yeah. So, anyways, they're continuing to move north and engage in some interesting discovery there. The fact that the Carnivon wormhole has reappeared in Romeo 39 is going to be a very interesting point of discussion and debate. I have a feeling, depending on what happens for the Carnivon, this may be an interesting and or vulnerable point of incursion for the Carnivon and or avenue for exploration and expansion, depending on what they want to do. Granted, the Carnivon are still in Y-Tech. The Romulans are very obviously in M-Tech. So how is that going to balance out? We will have to see. Very interesting options available for the Romulans. All right, let's scroll up here and take a look at the Gorn. And looky what they found. So we have another stabilized SC size 3, size class 3 location here. And as I mentioned before, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the location of the Juggernaut base. There is one there, there's one there, there's one there. This is mapping perfectly, and I'd be very interested to see where the other locations are going to be. So we'll have to see how this kind of maps forward, but you can see the Romulans and the Gorn definitely pushing towards the center. What they will find, other than the Juggernauts ready to kick butt and take names, who knows? We'll have to see. We have Vengeance Fleet in a position to be able to back up and support the Gorn ships as they move forward. You've got a YSR, which is a survey ship. Vengeance Fleet for the Gorn. Let's take a look. Named fleets. Ooh, let's put that over my head. So Vengeance Fleet, you can see it's a Dreadnought CL, couple 3 DDs, FF Commando Cruiser, and a Prime Team. They are continuing their exploration. This survey ship is having a little bit of challenge trying to unstick this fog of war hex. And then, of course, tugs and convoys providing extended supply and, of course, moving the ball forward to be able to build bases and supply in that general direction. As we go across the border here, we got Mobile Fleet sitting on top of Victor. Remember, this is basically a fleet of W-era ships, just for confirmation. Well, you can see it in the named fleets here. You've got a whole bunch of W-era ships sitting on top of this particular YDK. And when it comes to AA, the AA wormhole is that one that showed up here at the border between the Federation and the Lyrans. So very, very interesting. The Gorn are uniquely positioned, considering everything, to be able to move and shake and influence the entire map in some way, shape, or form. They are continuing their diplomatic efforts along with the the Paravians in the south. They have a H plus, so a medium-sized planet at H plus. If they were to get that incorporated into their faction or into their economy, that'll pop them up to 54. They're currently even 50 right now on their economy. Very interesting to see how that sort of evolves going forward. Interesting. What else we got here? We've got a YB or a Orion base there. I guess nothing else that's too exciting. Obviously, we've got some movement on the border here, just kind of exploring and sort of building out a little bit more, but nothing too much when it comes to the Gorn. Commercial or a Y convoy. Yeah, Y commercial convoy moving north. Interesting to note. And as we roll into the Tholians, I am very happy to see and say that, yes, the Kzinti are holding out. The Kzinti are not part of the Tholian alliance. That 4 EP, if they get it, will put them into just under 60, 59.5. And, of course, I'm looking to try and tamp down Tholian economic expansion as much as possible. However, we heard about the Green Dragon faction and the casualties they took. We can see that their YDK is crippled. Green Dragon under the Borak faction. Where are you, Borak? Borak, Green Dragon. Ooh, we can see they got a couple of crippled DDs, many of their FFs destroyed, and just a bunch of cruisers, light, heavy, and dreadnought, respectively, ready for the defense. The Tholian faction in Home Fleet, let's take a look at that. Where are you, Tholians? Tholian Home Fleet. Wow, that's a lot of cripples. 11 crippled patrol craft, 3 crippled DDs, and 4 cruisers and 3 command cruisers. So quite a few cripples. You can see they still have 6 patrol craft ready to go, and they have a YBS on that planet. So not enough repair capacity to make a huge difference. However, they'll be able to, I imagine, successfully take this planet next turn, which means they'll get 2 EP from it when it's crippled. And if they get the Kzinti, they'll be over 60 EP, which puts them as the second most potent economy in the game. Very interesting to see. I want to raise the alarm to the rest of the factions in this game of the hidden threat that are the Tholians. But what do I know? Let's look at the rest of what they got here. We've got, of course, the Gulf wormhole that leads over to the east side of the map, and November as well. Gulf, November, and Whiskey. Let's go take a look here. So we've got the November wormhole here, the Whiskey wormhole, which is up here. And I'm trying to remember, do we have the Gulf wormhole? I don't know that the Gulf wormhole has been transited, has it? Has anyone seen where the Gulf wormhole goes? I feel like we haven't yet. So we'll have to figure out where that goes. But as you can see here, there's nothing on it. Third Fleet is on the November wormhole. Is there? Oh, no, the Gulf wormhole. No, I'm wrong. I don't know where the Gulf wormhole goes. Oh, is that it right there? Let's take away the bases and the ships. Oh, no, that's the Zulu wormhole. Yeah, I don't know where the Gulf wormhole goes. But the November wormhole is there. It's got Third Fleet on it, and then Second Fleet on the Whiskey one. So let's take a look at the Tholian defenses against incursion, shall we say. They've got a couple of CCs, or a couple of try that again. YR cruisers, 3 dreadnoughts. Goodness, Tony. Destroyers. Thank you. Hell, I'll take another sip of coffee. All right, 3 destroyers and a total of 7 patrol craft, as well as a captured Reman frigate. And then on the Second Fleet, we've got 3 patrol craft that are acting like a tug, and then the second Tholian, come on now. The second task group is a total of 6 patrol craft, 1 DD, and 2 cruisers. So really the weight of their military effort or military resistance is on the November wormhole, and any effort to go through that wormhole will be difficult, I would say, at the very least, just because of the inherent capacity for the Tholians to be a hard target when dealing with their pinwheel effect and some of the other stuff that they have available. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves going forward as we do. I apologize, I forgot to go to the chat. Let's finish off the Tholians, and then we'll do the Federation, and then we'll go into the chat. All right, so the Tholians here, you can see the biggest thing here is, like, of course, we've got Green Dragon about to fall. We've got the discovery of not one, but 2 sensor readings for these Juggernaut bases. And the derelict, that, don't forget about this derelict that's sitting here off in the corner, that needs to be captured and sort of taken away. So very interesting to see this sort of combination of things. The Tholians, I would say, are in the best possible position. They're not in an active conflict other than their minor conflict with the Green Dragon, meaning they have no war turns banked. They have the second largest economy. They have certainly a high level of technology. The only deficiency or sort of challenge that they're dealing with is they do not have a large military, and it would seem that they are not at MTech, although I can't understand how they are not at MTech already. I think they probably are. They just haven't spent the money to upgrade all their stuff and present the threat of MTech. I think they are purposely holding off on that so that they can... They're purposely holding off on that so that they can go undetected at this point. But I think they are certainly at MTech. They just haven't chosen to build anything MTech related as of yet. Here's another interesting thing that I'm noticing. Notice the development and the construction of YBSs that you're going to see here on the way down this free transit zone. I believe that the Federation is going to build a network of bases, much like the Klingons did, to be able to facilitate their expeditionary engagement of other military forces. And if you look at the entire map, if I'm the Federation, the easiest target at this point is the Gorn, because I can attack the Gorn. The Gorn can't reach me, although that new wormhole changes that a little bit. I can reach out and attack the Gorn. The Gorn can't reach me, and the Tholians can help me attack the Gorn and or the Romulans if I want. There's nobody else, because they're not going to attack the Lyrans at this point, and there's no other concrete target for them to attack in order to grow economically. So that's going to be interesting. Right now, all they're doing is trying to expand and grow conventionally, and they, I would feel, are itching for some kind of military conquest. And based on the available targets and players on the map, I would think they are choosing their vector of attack carefully. The Remans are safe for them, generally speaking, because the Remans have no direct avenue to attack the Federation. I believe that the Federation are going to use the Tholian free transit zone to be a vector to be able to potentially attack other players if they want. Yeah, I think the Federation are in an interesting position, and if I were them, I would probably want to set up the potential to be able to attack various folks. That being said, let's take a look at their sort of levels of vulnerability. We've got the Tango wormhole, which of course leads into Klingon space. Let's just take a quick look at that. That is 7th Fleet. No change there. 5 Y-era frigates, a command cruiser, and a conventional cruiser. Just as a reminder, that comes out now at the bottom here of the Klingon map. That is still a fog of war hex, so sort of no issues there. In addition, let's slide this over. In addition, they've got the hotel. This is the hotel wormhole, which I don't believe has been transited, so they don't know where that ends up. There is the uniform wormhole, which has 2nd Fleet on it. That leads into ISC space. So 2nd Fleet, you can see here, 5 frigates, 2 cruisers, and a command cruiser. So that leads into ISC space. Oh, my head's in the way. As you can see there, under my head, the uniform wormhole right there. All right. So there's that. And then of course, they've got their borders. The AA wormhole, which is leading into Gorn space, which is just materialized. So that'll be a very interesting sort of leveraging point. So as far as vectors of attack, Tango, Uniform, and the AA, Those are their only sort of ways to transit. I'm assuming they don't have, or they have not conducted any research into wormholes, as they have not transited a wormhole to the best of my knowledge. They are using conventional methods like this free transit zone to be able to open up an avenue to be able to do stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. I'll be interested to see where this free transit zone, if it ends on this planet, what's going on there. Maybe the feds are going to try and take that planet. I don't know. We'll see. And then, of course, that rounds us back up to the swarm and what's going up here. Let's just take away the ships real quick so we can see. If we look at the density, it's hard to sort of pick out because of so much stuff on the map. This is Federation space without any of the bases. If we put the bases back, they have quite a good sort of concentration of bases. They have good sort of redundancy built in, and a reasonable amount of YDKs in critical places, i.e. on the uniform wormhole, the Tango wormhole, and so on. Now that they've discovered this Paravian planet here, I imagine they'll engage in some kind of maybe military campaign to take it. But it'll be very interesting to see because, again, one of the things we talk about in the context of this game is the table talk and what goes on when it comes to the role play. But let's discuss that here in the chat. So again, the tabletop or the table talk and the chat. So we've got this going on with regards to the Lyran Federation Reman ISC conflict. We've got this going on with the potential backroom discussions about what's going to happen with the Hydrans. I mean, after all, we've got this random vol floating around in Lyran space. What's up with that? We've got the redistribution of the neutral zone with the Carnivon. What's that going to do for the Carnivon? Are they going to be able to redouble their efforts against the ISC and the Remans, or are they going to, I don't know, are they going to reach up and deal with the Gorn, or are they going to do something? Are they going to reach through that wormhole and now deal with the Romulans? Like what's going to go on there? The Romulans, of course, now with their M-Tech full force and stereo sound, what are they going to do with that? There's just a lot of options sort of mingling about here when it comes to the various factions. So very interested to see how the role play starts to take effect and evolve going forward. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of storylines come out. The Gorn playing such a interesting and potentially pivotal role in how they're influencing other factions in the map. The Romulans now arguably one of the tech leaders on the board. I mean, if we think about M-Tech, who's got M-Tech? The Klingons? We know the Gorn have it, although they haven't deployed any ships. The Roms have it, and they have deployed ships. And that's it. So we got three factions that have M-Tech. One actively deploying them, that's the Klingons. The Romulans now starting to roll out their ships. And so the needle is starting to move in that regard on how M-ships play out. What's that going to look like? I'm just so interested to see what's going on. But let's go into the chat and figure out what's going on here. All right. So enough chitter chatter from my mouth. Let's get the chitter chatter from you. So George Duffy says, didn't the Gorns already encounter Banshees earlier in their area? If so, then would they gain more tech knowledge or gain an advantage in defeating them? I don't know. I would imagine that if they've already encountered Banshees of some type, this might be different in the sense of the technology might be different for these Banshees. Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. That is a Game Master specific thing, and I'm sure they have a table that shows you what you do and don't get. Anytime you kill a monster, you're going to get a little bit of a tech bump. So the question is just what is that tech bonus going to be? That is totally dependent on the tables that the Game Master rolls on. Oh, yeah. Look at Whiskey 31, he says. That is what Bill says. So let's take a look at Whiskey 31. Whiskey 31? Whiskey 31. Yeah, Whiskey 31. That's the stabilized wormhole. Or, sorry, stabilized. That's the next Juggernaut base as per the estimation. We'll see. Bill says, nope, we have not run into specific Banshees. Daniel only has 5 monster chits to put on the map and about 34 to 35 monsters to choose from by rolling dice. Okay, fair enough. Big Slow Target, neutral zone 3 hexes from the homeworld. Looks safe, he says. Ha ha ha. So 3 hexes from the wormhole, or from the homeworld. Yes. Yeah, I mean, the argument is if you don't, it's the area of control. We'll have to see. So we'll see how that relationship evolves between the Carnivons and the Klingons. As it is right now, I think things are looking good. But we'll have to see. Will the Klingons and the Carnivon engage in other activities that will bump up the confidence of their collaboration? Only time will tell. Eugene says, other factions involved? Question mark. Juggies babies? Oh my goodness. There are true string puller and they are the true string puller and enemy of all. Ignore the Juggies at your joint peril. All right, we'll see. We'll see. George says, there is also the Gorn, which is aligned with the Feds and offering assistance to Lyrans. They too can enter through wormhole and capture Hydran territory. Are the Gorn going to stir the pot and take out the Hydrans as well? I don't know. We'll have to see. Bill, already their Gorns already the Gorns are the United Nations, man. I am friends with everyone. Right. I have another theory that the Gorn are not so much the United Nations, but the Valley girls of the high school spreading gossip around like it was candy. I feel like they're more like the ears that are listening and the mouths that are whispering, kind of thing. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. All right. Eugene, Juggies probably just left Romulan space because it lacked a challenge. Oh man, maybe they took the ships home to celebrate Juggy Thanksgiving and recharge or update their operating systems. Maybe, who knows? George has a question. When the Kzinti joined with the Fed's last turn, what happened to all those Kzinti hulls? Great question. So when a neutral planet or a minor faction joins your empire, all their ships disappear. So what this is meant to do is to prevent players from basically exponentially growing their fleets by diplomatically enabling minor factions to be able to join your empire, and then you could grow your fleet that way. Arguably, that would be a great strategy, but in earlier iterations of the game, that was sort of the template that was established. So we are currently playing with that template. Is that something to discuss going forward? Would that change in the future? Maybe. Maybe that's just an added bonus and or incentive to go diplomatic in your approach to be able to build your empire. By conquering them, you have to destroy those ships. By diplomatically incorporating them into your empire, you gain those ships. Maybe that's part of the sort of the challenge or the discourse to be able to do that. In a previous game, in fact, in Lost Stars, which was the first campaign that you saw on this channel, the Paravian player had engaged in an interesting role-playing dynamic whereby he was vassalizing the minor factions. Allowing them to exist independently, they would pay him a certain amount every year, but he would allow them to operate independently. So, but they would use their ships in defense of the their lord, so to speak, should ever be called upon. So that was a way to get around that rule. So interesting in that's how that worked. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Should we change that rule in the future? Is that something you'd like to see potentially in gameplay? I don't know. Something to ask. Oh goodness. Big Slow Target asks or says, oh, it might be too late to deal with Tholians now. Look at that base network. Yeah, they've got a great base network because the Tholian player is very experienced and knows how to do that. So, yeah. George says, Tholians have a base Star Wheel defense map. Yeah, they are going to be a challenge to deal with regardless, which is why I keep harping on it. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. All right. Compare the base density east versus west, though. And what are you trying to say there in the sense that the base density in the east is less than it is in the west? There's a lot more conflict in the east. I don't know. We'll have to see. Bill Linton says Pravians are hostile. Ooh, so that basically means the Federation's going to war? Is that what's going on, Bill? Are the Federation on the war path? Let's see. All right. Or a 15-turn diplomatic mission to persuade the Pravians instead of attacking. Yeah, we'll see about that. CC34, next Juggy base. India 31 on the east side. Charlie 22. Yeah, where all those, like, I'm thinking, is it Charlie 22? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Charlie 24 is where there's going to be a base, or 34, excuse me. 34, and I expect there may be one at 32. We'll have to see. Yeah, Bill says 34, 22, India 31. Should be other Juggy bases. Neutral zone planets will be joined differently in his campaign. Yeah, so yeah, we'll have to. One of the challenges. You tell me, player community. For those of you who are watching this live stream who have reached the 1 hour and 37-minute mark in this live stream and are still with us, thank you so much. If you're playing this game and you want to be able to play in multiple campaigns, potentially at the same time, is it beneficial to you to have a consistent, steady set of rules? As in, like, the core rules that we're using, which are the Amarillo and Design Bureau's Federation Empire rule set. But as far as the specific campaign rules, or like the changes to the rules to make those campaigns specific, is it valuable to you? Do you enjoy it more as a player for there to be all sorts of different rules? Like, you know, the way that the economics works in one game is different than another. The way that pirates work in one game is completely different than another. That the mechanics around how the game is played effectively is different from one game to another, and then another, and then another. Is that kind of variety of value to you, or do you want to see a more standardized gameplay model, and it's just a matter of you playing different versions of the game in the sense of different campaigns in experiencing a different sequence of events occurring? If those different sequence of events occurring, that provides you a variety of gameplay, the replayability, let's say. Like, for example, if you're playing any sort of conventional computer game, turn-based strategy, so Civ or Total War series or whatever the case is, every time you play the game, the general sort of architecture is the same. The rules around the turns and what you can do are the same. You experiment and try one campaign after another, or one game after another, to see what works best. But when you're constantly changing the rule set, you have trouble doing that, right? So as a player, for you as the community who would want to play those games, what do you prefer? Standardized rule set that you can just play like one round after another, or one campaign after another to experiment with what works best, or a constantly a buffet of different rules that are constantly getting cycled in, and just a total difference and variety that is always changing? What do you prefer? What is best for you? You let me know in the comments. All right. Bill, hey, sorry, did not know where I would pop out there to take. Big slow target. Oh, base density. I was just saying that the east side powers have a much less base dense map. I was just saying the east side powers have a much less base dense setup than western powers. True. Bill saying, please return to your space. Bill, okay. Would you let us help against Banshees? Also, we will be using the wormhole to send YComs to you. Interesting. All right. Well, you've already started seeing some of the chitter chatter there. Bill's saying, Gorn, go back to your smelly, scaly hole. And the Gorns are like, hey, man, we just want to trade. Don't you want some of our shiny eggs or our shiny rocks? This rock is really good. This rock is even better. The question is, will the Federation even be interested or listen? Who knows? We shall have to see how this evolves going forward. Is there a fight brewing between the Federation and the Gorn? Classic Kirk versus the Gorn. Ooh, wouldn't that be an interesting sort of like battle card to set up? Or something else going on. If I'm the Gorn and I'm looking at what the Federation is doing in that free transit zone, I'm already got my hackles up as to what they're doing. But knowing that the Gorn are already at MTech, maybe I'm not too worried about it. Who knows? Only time will tell how this campaign evolves going forward. Who do you want to see fighting each other? Who do you want to see get it on between like the Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield? Who wants to bite whose ear off and all that kind of business? After all, it is a war game. Who do you want to see fight? Let's hear it in the chat, in the comments below. I would love to be able to get to know where you want to see this game going. And if you haven't already had a chance, then please check out our tutorials on how to play, whether it's combat or supply, or even just talking about our strategies. For example, the step 1, step 2, step 3 thumbnail talking about the strategy that the Klingons had with regards to conducting their Carnivon campaign. What do you think should be the way forward with regards to the ISC and the Remans? Should they stomp the Hydrans? Should we find a way to get along? Should the Gorn start like establishing colonies all over the place through their wormholes? Should the Lyrans back off and deal with those Banshees? Or maybe the Remans have an opportunity to get back at the kitty cat? Who knows? Like I say, put your comments in the comments below, in the chat, and let's see what's going on. Will Cumberston, having custom rules for different games is fine. Might be best to have a core set that the games choose from, but are different from each other. Yeah. Big Slow Target says an identifiable source of all the rules in effect for the specific game would be nice. I'm a bit unsure as to what the changes are in F&E between the ITV spreadsheet. Oh, beyond the ITV spreadsheet. Yeah, like I say, it's just like you get familiar with the game and then trying to understand how every different GM's doing things differently. It can be a little frustrating and confusing. But Gorns don't have ears, Bill says. All right, well, with that said, thank you very much for joining us today. I see we have not hit our goal of 3. I will take a sip regardless. All right. But for all of those of you who have joined us here today, thank you for joining the show. And with that said, thank you again. I will see you next week. I will see you next week on our live stream. Ciao for now.